This week, a bombshell ruling took the world of global citizenship by storm. On April 29, 2025, the European Court of Justice declared Malta's golden passport scheme illegal, calling it, quote, a commercialization of citizenship. If you're wondering what was Malta's program, and it is past tense because it's basically canceled for the time being, maybe you're wondering, why did the EU strike it down? What does this mean for investors or EU citizenship? We're going to break it down in this video, answer common questions, but also share some lesser known insights from fresh sources, including the ruling itself. So whether you're an investor, an expat, or just fascinated by EU law, grab a Maltese coffee and let's unpack this landmark decision. So let's set the stage. Malta's Golden Passport Scheme is officially called the Malta Exceptional Investor Naturalization Program, the MEIN program, allowing wealthy individuals to buy Maltese citizenship and by extension EU citizenship for a minimum investment of 600 to 750,000 euros. Launched in 2014 under then Prime Minister Joseph Muscat, the scheme required applicants to invest in Malta, usually a donation of the 700K, and reside in the country for a period of time, although actual residency was often minimal. In return, they gained a Maltese passport, granting visa-free access to 190 countries, one of the best passports in the world, with the right to live, work, and vote across the European Union. The program was a cash cow, generating over 1.6 billion US dollars since 2015, funding social programs like housing per Malta's government. But it sparked controversy for allegedly enabling money laundering and corruption, drawing the EU's ire. In reality, it's a program that always had very high due diligence standards. It's commonly understood that a much higher level of due diligence was applied to Malta than was applied to, say, Cyprus, that had a citizenship by investment program in the past as well. So it was a program that was very above board and well run, and they were only taking good applicants. But it really comes down to the EU not liking citizenship by investment in general. So it's not really about Malta, it's really about this idea of citizenship by investment in the EU in general. On April 29th, 2025, the European Court of Justice, the ECJ, which is the EU's highest court, ruled that Malta's Golden Passport scheme violates EU law, ordering its immediate termination. The European Commission, which sued Malta in 2022, argued that the program breached Article 20 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, the TFEU, which defines EU citizenship, and Article 4.3 of the Treaty on European Union, the TEU, which mandates sincere cooperation among member states. The ECJ agreed, calling the scheme a, quote, commercialization of citizenship that undermines the, quote, mutual trust and good faith between EU countries. The court's reasoning is that granting citizenship for predetermined payments without requiring a genuine link, quote unquote, to Malta, like meaningful residency and center of life and time on the ground, without these things, it turns nationality into a mere commercial transaction, incompatible with the EU's values. The 2020 scheme's lax residency rules, exposed by the 2021 Passport Papers investigation, showed applicants often spend just weeks in Malta, renting empty properties to qualify. This eroded the solidarity between member states as Maltese citizenship grants EU-wide rights, impacting all 27 countries. Malta now faces fines if it doesn't comply per the ECJ's binding ruling. So why was the scheme so controversial? And maybe scheme's the right word, but why was Malta's program so contentious? So let's look at the history. Introduced post-2008 financial crisis to boost Malta's economy, The scheme attracted wealthy investors, including Russian oligarchs, Chinese tycoons, and politically exposed persons. A 2021 Guardian investigation citing the passport papers from Daphne Caruana Galizia Foundation revealed that millionaires with minimal ties to Malta, some staying just 3 weeks, gained citizenship, raising red flags regarding security risks. The 2017 murder of journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia, who exposed corruption in the system, amplified global scrutiny. The EU Commission launched legal action in 2020, arguing the program undermined EU citizenship and enabled sanctioned individuals like Russians or things like that, per a 2023 Transparency International report. Malta's suspension of Russian and Belarusian applicants in 2022 didn't do enough to quell concerns. Now, that's one argument, that's one side of the story. The other side of the story, from someone like myself who's more of a citizenship and residency practitioner and have a bit of insight into the citizenship by investment world, everybody agrees that Malta's program was overall very well run. There were very few controversial figures, perhaps more in the early days, but in most recent years, the practitioners in Malta, the lawyers and everybody knew to be on their best behavior. They knew to run a clean ship. And so the program was run very cleanly. It's just a lot of normal people who wanted to upgrade their circumstances. Maybe they're from a third world country, they're from a lower tier passport country, and they wanted to upgrade their passport portfolio. They wanted access to the European Union. They wanted to maybe educate their kids in Europe. People are doing this with good intentions to improve their circumstances and that of their family, right? They want the mobility, they want the security and safety, they want the educational opportunities. And this was an opportunity that made sense for a lot of people. So, at least from what I've seen, it's not super abused by bad people. It was a well-run program. They knew that they needed to run it well in order to keep the program going. So they were running it as well as they could. They were having constant dialogue with the European Union. The thing is, it's not about how well run the program was. And sure, maybe you could point to some specific circumstances, but overall, it's not about how well run the program was. It's about, should programs like this exist at all in the European Union? And the idea that maybe having citizenship by investment, no matter how well vetted the applicants are, no matter how much due diligence that you do, maybe the idea of citizenship by investment is just contrary to EU values. Now, there's definitely a lot of arguments on the other side of that as well, where you say, hey, look, I mean, we've added over 1 million new EU citizens in the past year alone, and the Malta program is only 400 people a year, so it's truly a drop in the bucket. It's a very small percentage of people relative to all the unvetted people who get citizenship in Europe through a myriad of other ways, like naturalization and citizenship by descent and marriage and so forth. So that 1 million plus people that became a EU citizen just in the past year, those people are far less vetted, and there's far less due diligence run on those people than are run on these 400 applicants a year in Malta. These are actually the only highly vetted and people, the only highly vetted people getting citizenship in Europe. Everybody else is not undergoing the same level of scrutiny. So that's kind of the two sides of the argument there. So now let's move on to the implications for Maltese passport holders, and what does this ruling mean for Malta and people who already bought passports or people who already started the program. So this is all very new. The ruling just came down a couple days ago, and Malta's government issued a statement on April 29th, same day, saying that it respects the court's decision and is studying the legal implications to align citizenship laws with EU principles. However, it defended the scheme's $1.4 billion in revenue, which funded healthcare and social housing, and confirmed that existing passports issued under the program remain valid, per local media. This means the 1,400 plus investors who gained citizenship since 2014 won't lose their status. Yet. Here's a lesser known concern: revocation risks. While Malta hasn't announced plans to revoke passports, and it's not really in the discussion much, honestly, it's something that some people have suggested could occur, per the OCCRP. For Malta, scrapping the system may shift focus to its Golden Visa program, which grants residency but not citizenship for investment. The ruling set a precedent, essentially banning all EU countries from launching similar citizenship by investment programs, per Transparency International. So this ruling affects not just Malta, but all members of the EU who thought of maybe launching a program. There historically have been a couple programs in the past. Ireland had one for a while. As I mentioned, Cyprus had one for a while. I think Bulgaria as well. So a lot of the Eastern European countries have looked into it or dabbled in it, knowing all along that the EU generally doesn't like this stuff. And now this has become abundantly clear. So back to the revocations. I think people are pretty secure that already received their citizenship. The applications that are in process, that's an interesting case. We're not sure where that's going to land. I mean, it only affects a couple hundred people probably that currently have their citizenship in process. But bottom line, no new applications are going to be submitted from here on out. The program is essentially officially paused/terminated. I know Malta is going to want to keep the discussions going with the EU and try to find a way to allow the program to exist, or perhaps switch to a more residency by investment type program instead of direct citizenship. So remains to be seen what happens with that. Now let's talk about the broader impact on the EU and global citizenship. How does this ruling affect the EU and global citizenship programs? Well, the ECJ's decision is a landmark, closing the last EU Golden Passport program after Cyprus ended its scheme in 2020 and Bulgaria in 2022. It reinforces that EU citizenship, conferring rights to free movement, work, and voting across 27 countries, cannot be sold, as stated by Commission spokesperson Markus Lammert, stating European citizenship is not for sale. And globally, the ruling may pressure non-EU countries with citizenship by investment programs as well, like St. Kitts and Nevis or Turkey, everyone really, to tighten regulations, though they face no direct legal impact. Here's another lesser known implication, is golden visas in general are probably the next target in the bullseye in terms of being under scrutiny. So while the ECJ ruling from this week targets citizenship, EU countries like Portugal, which scaled back its golden visa program in 2023, but certainly still has it, may face pressure to end the residency by investment scheme or the golden visa scheme, or increase the physical presence requirements. As a reminder, Portugal golden visa, it's possible to get citizenship in 5 years with a total of 35 days spent in Portugal. And that program is still valid. You average 7 days per year on the Portugal golden visa. And after 5 years, you can apply for citizenship. We have other videos on this channel about the Portuguese golden visa, which is kind of now the next best thing, the next best program after the cancellation of the Malta program. So now if you want sort of a low physical presence path to citizenship in the EU, Portugal is basically the lowest physical presence path to get there, at least in terms of investment programs. Of course, maybe by marriage or descent, there are other programs that can be done with zero physical presence. But in terms of citizenship by investment or residency by investment, the Portuguese program is now officially the most attractive in terms of being the lowest physical presence. So Portugal is still active. Worth noting that here at MyLatinLife, we help people get the Portuguese golden visa. We help with all kinds of visas for Portugal, Spain, Italy, Malta, essentially kind of Latin Europe. And if you have interest in what your options are, you want to discuss that, there is a link in the description where you can book a call with us. You'll be speaking with me directly, and we can talk about your options in the EU, in Europe, and in Latin America as well for residency, for citizenship, paper residencies, fast path to citizenship, via investment, and all the other channels. So again, link in the description to book a call, and we can essentially help you expand your passport portfolio and become a global citizen. Now, moving on to some practical tips and what's next. So for potential investors, Malta's program is now closed, and here's a lesser known tip. Monitor golden visa reforms. Malta's residency program, offering Schengen access for around 150K, may face EU challenges next, per Transparency International. Other golden visa programs around Europe might face more scrutiny. So if you want a golden visa for Europe, you better get started ASAP, because we don't know what things are going to look like 12 or 18 months from now. And as we say all the time, these things always get harder. They never get easier, whether it's citizenship by investment or descent or residency in Latin America. Every aspect of residency and citizenship, it only gets harder. So if you find a program that you like, that you're eligible for, that you're pretty down to pull the trigger on, you really got to pull the trigger. And this is just the latest anecdotal evidence of that, of the importance of taking action and acting fast. So in conclusion, there you have it, global citizens. The European Court of Justice's April 29, 2025 ruling has shut down Malta's Golden Passport Scheme, the MEIN, declaring it a violation of EU law for turning citizenship into a commercial transaction. From its 1.4 billion euros in revenue to what this means for the future of residency and citizenship in Europe, this decision is a game changer for global investment trends. With tips like monitoring golden visa reforms, checking your passport status, staying informed, hopefully this video allows you to be a little bit more ready to navigate the fallout, whether you're an investor, a EU resident, or hopeful. So now Malta must comply, and the EU's stance is clear. Citizenship is not for sale. I hope this video answered your questions and sparked curiosity about global mobility. What's your take on Malta's ruling? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your questions about golden passports or visas or your takes. If you'd like to speak to us, again, there's a link in the description where you can book a call, become our client, and we can build you a holistic game plan. And also don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more global citizenship and EU law insights. Until next time, see you in the next video.